Welcome to this edition of Security and Compliance Weekly. Today we welcome Naomi Buckwalter, Virtual CISO, Director of Information Security by day, and also the founder and executive director of an organization called the Cybersecurity Gatebreakers Foundation. We are going to discuss the cybersecurity skills gap, or lack thereof, how we can solve the perceived shortage of talent in our industry, and how Naomi believes that there's a gatekeeping issue in our industry. Who knows? By the end of this discussion, we might just add breaking down gates to our tagline. So join us as we continue our journey of tearing down silos and building bridges on Security and Compliance Weekly.
This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. And now, it's the show that bridges the requirements of regulations, compliance, and privacy with those of security. Your trusted source for complying with various mandates, building effective programs, and current compliance news. It's time for Security and Compliance Weekly. Some things are best kept secret. You wouldn't send your company's financial data through the mail on a postcard. Then why would you let your employees use insecure collaboration and file share tools to share sensitive business information? Introducing Crossclave, a file sharing and collaboration solution built secure from the ground up. Think Signal, only designed specifically for business and enterprise users. Crossclave uses blockchain technology and end-to-end encryption to deliver a true zero-trust system designed to protect you and your business's most valuable data. So if you need to share sensitive information, SpiderOak's Crossclave is your only choice. Go to securityweekly.com/SpiderOak and get a free account with 5 gigabytes of storage.
Welcome to Security and Compliance Weekly. This is episode 83, and we are recording live on August 17th, 2021. I'm your host, Mr. Jeff Mann. Joining me remotely as usual are my co-hosts, Mr. Scott Lyons, Mr. Josh Marpet, and Mr. Frederick Flea Lee. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
In fact, we're working on getting Scott back on. He had a few technical difficulties, so we're doing a little bit of reboot. So I'm going to stall by giving you a couple of announcements. The Cyber Risk Alliance, in partnership with InfraGard, has launched the Critical Infrastructure Resilience Benchmark Study. You can measure your readiness for ransomware by completing the survey and getting your score. Go to securityweekly.com/CIRB to take the survey and get your results. Coming up on August 26th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, you can learn how to implement cloud security in a way that actually works, which implies that people are doing it wrong. So if you want to do that, you need to go to securityweekly.com/webcasts and register now. Also, of course, if you've missed any of our previously recorded webcasts or technical trainings, they are available for your viewing pleasure at securityweekly.com/on-demand. All right, enough of that. Our guest today, as mentioned previously, is Naomi Buckwalter. Naomi was brought to actually Scott and my attention. We were having a conversation a month or so ago with somebody else who will be a future guest on the show. And he mentioned Naomi and said, you got to check her out. So we did. And then we invited her on the show. And now here she is. So Naomi, welcome to Security and Compliance Weekly.
I'm excited. It's episode 83. Congratulations. I love the prime number. And I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
Every other time we have a potential of a prime number, that it's not always the case. But thanks for displaying your geekiness right at the outset by acknowledging our prime membership.
Yeah, I should dial that back.
No, not at all.
Right.
Awesome.
No. You're in good company, unfortunately, or not. We'll take it from there. But while we're on the topic, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got your start in cybersecurity, and ultimately we'll get around to your foundation. But tell us how you got to be a virtual CISO, at least.
Oh yeah, happy to talk about myself, Jeff. My name's Naomi. Hey everyone, thanks for listening today and spending your time with us. I've been in tech and security for over 20 years. If you're watching me on video, yes, I do look a little young. I blame that on my genetics. So yes, I am 40 years old. And I've had experiences doing a little bit of everything. Started out as an application developer way back in the day when Lotus Notes was still a thing. Moved into Java mid-tier. We called it Spring MVC, if you remember that. Moved into application security, did some security engineering, architecture, and did some incident response, a little bit of privacy. Now I'm in my third role as the security leader, or CISO, however you want to call it, for a mid-sized business. And the one that I'm in now is called Beam Technologies, and our mission is to do smarter dental care. And I would say I love it. Like, there's plenty to do here in the small and mid-sized realm. There's so much to do, so much to learn, so much to grow. And if you guys are thinking about becoming a security leader, I highly suggest trying to be one in a smaller mid-sized company. You get to do so much. It's amazing.
Well, it's interesting that you entice people into becoming a security leader. I think most of us are trying to figure out whether we're even security professionals and what that means. So, to jump forward a little bit, you're also the founder of a organization called Cybersecurity Gatekeeping Foundation, which is the bulk of the conversation today. But give us a little bit of a tease about what this organization's about and why you felt compelled to start it.
Yeah, happy to. So it's called Cybersecurity Gatebreakers Foundation, and we are here to win the war on cybercrime by dismantling the myth that there is a skills gap or a skills shortage. I believe there is no skills gap. I believe there's a demand gap in the minds and the hearts of hiring managers and cybersecurity professionals and executives. So if we can convince people who are in our roles as security leaders and as veterans of cybersecurity, if we can convince them that it's important and easy to hire and train the next generation of cybersecurity professionals, we will win the war on cybercrime. So as you know, in this asymmetric war where there's one malicious actor or one bad group, APT group, they can take down an entire eastern seaboard of the United States for gasoline, right? Like, it's an asymmetric war. One bad actor can do many bad things. We need more defenders. Clearly, the numbers are against us. And we all know the numbers, 314,000 unfilled jobs in the United States, over 3 million, depending on who you ask, around the world. And those numbers are just increasing. I think by 2025, there's a report by Forbes that says cybercrime is going to be a $1 trillion industry if it's not already. And breaches are constantly happening. And if you see kind of what's happening in the world, and this is where I'm trying to get to, I can see a world where, in a future where cybercrime is just happening all the time, and it's going to continuously bleed out of the virtual world into the physical world. And that's a future that I do not want to see. And so I started this foundation knowing exactly this. I can see a future, and I have a vision of a future where my children and my grandchildren are now suffering on the daily because they can't trust where their water, if their water is pure, or if their electricity is going to be constant, right? Like, all these things that we take for granted now can be affected in the very near future if we continue to let this trend of cybercrime happening. And it's not just data. We always talk about this. Oh, it's just data. It's okay. It's not anything like that. But it's increasingly getting worse. Like, there's a story I tell quite often about a mid-size, or not mid-size, in the Midwest. There's a police station that got hacked. And the cyber criminals stole some photos of crime scenes and had some murders in there and some blood and everything else, like pretty gross stuff. And the cyber criminals went up to the police station and the detectives there, and they're like, hey, we're going to release these photos if you don't pay us a ransom. So a different type of ransomware, if you think about it. Now, the police station actually said, well, heck no, we don't have that kind of money. We're not insured for that. So they go away, right? F off. Do we curse here on the show? Maybe.
Oh, absolutely.
I won't. Fuck off then.
Really?
Yeah, like so. And then the cyber criminals, what did they do? Well, they're going to get their money somehow. So they went to the victims' families. So the victims' families are now victimized twice. Once when their loved ones were murdered. Now another time when the cyber criminals are like, if you don't pay us, we're going to release these photos out into the world. And they did. And so that is just one of many examples where people's real lives are now affected because of cybercrime. It's not just data anymore.
Naomi, can I ask you a question? And I'm going to go back to the start of what you said.
Josh.
Before that, Josh. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We just have to squeeze in the hot seat question.
My apologies.
And then we can dive into this, as we're all kind of chomping at the bit, I think. Naomi, we ask all of our guests to come on the show because this is a show called Security and Compliance Weekly, and we try to speak to both audiences, as it were, and really try to enlighten each audience that there's another audience out there. We ask simply what we call the hot seat question, and there's no right or wrong answer. This is just your opinion, giving us a chance to get to know your mindset a little bit. Where do you fall on what we like to call the security versus compliance continuum?
Yeah, so you're asking, am I more risk-based or compliance-based? I am very certainly in the camp of being more risk-based. I think it's the better way of evaluating risk. And as security professionals, we are just managers of risk, and we are enablers of the business. Now, is compliance a terrible thing? No, there's in some ways, compliance and security can play along really nicely. But I think AJ Yan says it best, compliance does not equal security, but security always equals compliance. So if you have good security, you'll always be in compliance with whatever frameworks that you're trying to comply with or whatever laws and regulations. But if you're just compliant, you're just trying to check the box, sometimes you're going to miss the mark on actual good security. So I am clearly on the risk-based side. I appreciate compliance, I will say, but it's not the end all.
It's okay that you're wrong. It's not a problem.
Go ahead, Josh.
Not a
now
problem
ask your
until
question.
it is.
No, we can discuss that later. I have a very different view, but I understand where you're coming from, but it's cool. We'll talk about it later. But no, I do have a question about what you said earlier. You mentioned that there is not a skills gap, there is a demand gap. And you said that there are unfilled jobs. And so I'm a little confused, and maybe I'm just thinking about it backwards, but it would seem that there is a demand. So if there is a demand, where's the demand gap? Maybe I'm misunderstanding?
Okay, now that's a really great question because I need to clarify. There is a demand gap at the mid-senior and senior levels. There is less of a demand gap at the entry-level position. So I analyzed 1,000 LinkedIn jobs about a year ago, and I found out only 12.5% of these 1,000 jobs in cybersecurity are for entry level or tagged as entry level. Now, when I dug into the job descriptions, and I literally did this, I found on average, more than 50% of them require 5 years of experience just to get started in an entry-level role or a role that was tagged as entry-level. Now, not only that, 5 years of experience, it required a master's degree and a CISSP. Now, if you know about the CISSP, you already need to be in cybersecurity in order to be a CISSP holder. So that kind of got me thinking, well, it's not just anecdotal evidence at this point. I have the pure data, and it says over half of entry-level jobs in cybersecurity require years of experience. Is that common sense? No, it is not. So my entire foundation is trying to say, let's make sure we can hire and train the next generation of cybersecurity professionals, because cybersecurity professionals aren't just going to pop out of the ground, guys. We're not groundhogs. They're not just going to be ready to go and jump into a mid-senior and senior level. The demand is, yes, we need more mid-senior and veterans, and we need those people who know what they're doing, but they're never going to get there unless we take the curious and the hungry and the passionate and the people who are be amazing contributors if we were just to give them a chance. And that's what I'm seeing. I talked to so many different people throughout the pandemic. I've just mentees and everything. I've just been so inspired by them, but they are not being given a chance. And I just don't know why. I'm like, you are amazing. You are way better than I ever was at your age. You're building home labs, you're writing blogs, you're doing YouTube things, and you're going to webinars and conferences. And I just don't get it. And it just like rips my heart out because I know we're losing this war. And I know the only way we can win is if we have more people. It doesn't matter what kind of person it is. It doesn't have to be a person with a technical background or a CS degree or anything. Like I literally took an opera singer, and I hired her as a technical writer, as an intern. She wrote all her IT security playbook. She actually had the first one done within the first week, because guess what, guys? It is not brain surgery. Like it is not rocket science.
It's not rocket surgery at all. I totally agree. And I actually have an intern currently at my nonprofit that's a day trader. And he still day trades. We're getting him up to speed on that, and he wrote an article on ransomware that I'm going to be submitting to SE Magazine for him, and he's writing processes and procedures for us. So I totally get it and understand. So if I hear you correctly, what you're saying is the demand gap is the demand for entry level people is so low that it's hard for people to break into the industry because there's just nowhere for them to break into. Am I correct?
We all know this. Yeah, I'm just saying the obvious. We all know this, but I have the data to back it up. And when I did see that, when I saw the data itself, my heart just sank because I knew we were never going to reach the point where we can fill 314,000 unfilled jobs minus the 12.5%. We're never going to get there unless we start training and mentoring that next generation. And do we have enough people to do that within our ranks? Do we have enough people with that mindset of helping? I don't know.
Naomi,
and I want to
try. Advocate. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second.
Do it.
You said that there is a demand gap, and you have data to back it up, which is awesome, by the way. Well done, if you don't mind me saying so. And so there's no demand for entry-level people. And yet your strategy is to train and mentor people to become entry-level people. But you're not addressing the demand gap. If you're training them
No. I'm training the trainers. I am not training the entry-level people. The entry-level people are fine. They're perfect the way they are. I need to train the teachers. I need to mentor the teachers. That's what this foundation is doing. We are addressing the demand side.
Okay, so you're trying to
100% agree with that. Like one of the statistics, talking about data, it's something like less than 10% of security professionals are 29 years old or younger, right? So it's literally just nothing but a bunch of like old, worn out people like myself in the industry. And you're 100% right. I got started in security when I was a teenager. And it's weird now that a lot of our criteria make these demands that are almost impossible to fill for skills that we actually know people actually do have. And I love the example of kind of like the opera singer who's actually really good at communication, really good at actually understanding humans and nuance, actually going out and actually writing things and actually helping the security team. I am so here for this conversation. I wish I could be more controversial.
No. I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate.
Okay with it, yeah.
I'll take that job. It's okay. Yeah. But Naomi,
and I'll say, like, I hired my opera singer after here's the thing. I'll never tell her this, but I didn't think she could pass her Security Plus in 2 months. Like, I was like, if you can pass your Security Plus in 2 months, I will offer you a job. And I was like, I probably just went too far. There's no way she can do this, right? She blew my expectations out of the water. She studied. She took a dozen practice exams. She made hundreds of flashcards, studied for hours, right? And this is all after hours, right? She did her full-time job for us and then went back and did all the studying. So she crushed it. I had no idea that this was even possible. And then I started thinking, she's not unique. There's so many people just like her. And here's another thing, and not a lot of people know this, but when I opened up the internship position, I didn't make it a public thing. Like, I only announced it to like 3 different Facebook groups, right? And I did that on purpose because I was like, I don't want to reject 100,000 people anyway. So why don't I just reject like the smallest amount of people possible? But what ended up happening was we got a huge number of diverse candidates just from posting in those 3 Facebook groups, the opera singers and a couple others, communities of color and stuff. But like we actually got a really great set of candidates. And when we did some blind hiring practices, we took out the unconscious bias, we ended up with one military vet, middle-aged white guy. We had 3 females. One was 2 were opera singers. One was a female of color. One was a student. Like, there's just so many things to talk about, uncover here, but I'm kind of just rambling. But do you see what I'm trying to say? I don't think Jessica was unique in any way. I think she's special, yes. But are there many Jessicas? Yes, there are. And if we can just find them and train the trainers and teach them what to look for, and then give them resources to like, here's what you do with this person, and here's how they can provide return on investment day one, which is what you're looking for anyway. And here's how you train the next generation. Let's do it. Let's do this.
Yeah. Okay. I want to take a moment. Okay. Hold on, Josh. Sorry.
Okay.
I just want to level set a little bit because this is a nagging question that I've had for months, if not years, when people talk about the skills shortage and the job shortage for cybersecurity roles. And it may seem like a silly, maybe even pedantic question, but what exactly are we talking about in terms of cybersecurity roles or jobs? What are some examples of the roles that we're trying to fill?
Well, if you look at any department that has cybersecurity underneath their purview, it's really anything that has to do with the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data and systems. So if you want to hire somebody, give them very low entry-level grunt work. There's grunt work in every single specialty and subspecialty in cybersecurity. I challenge you, even in my role as a security leader, I have plenty of grunt work, and I would rather just ship that off to somebody who I know I can just tell what to do, and then give them spaces to learn and to grow safely, and then have them do it. Like, I don't want to have to waste my time filling out security questionnaires. Like, that's not something I want to do. That is grunt work for somebody else.
Is the grunt work typically involve writing?
Yeah, in a lot of cases. And that's why the intern was hired for technical writing. And no, she didn't know how to write technically, but I could train her. She's a good writer. You can break down arguments, you can find things, you can think critically about things. And so that's all I needed. And those are the skills that are hard to train. Think of all the human skills and the people skills that a lot of people just don't have, especially in cybersecurity. And believe me, I used to be one of them. I used to be rude and smug and just glib and like all these things that you see in a lot of different cybersecurity professionals. And I used to be that way because I was deeply insecure about myself. I used to have to pretend to be the smartest person in the room. And that hurt me so much in my career. The second that I had something happen to me where I was just humbled beyond belief, I started realizing I don't know everything and I need to improve. And once I had that growth mindset and understanding that to be a better person and to be a better security person, I needed to be more self-aware and understand what my strengths and weaknesses are, and then really work on myself. And I realized I am the common denominator to all my problems. Why am I blaming other people for my problems? Why am I not getting headcount? Why am I not getting resources or budget? It's because of me. I am not doing a good job explaining to the business what we need, explaining what the risk is, and getting them on board, winning their hearts and minds. Once I realized this, I'm like, wow, the skies opened up. Angels started singing, and I said, that's what I need to do. And it's been night and day ever since.
I do have a controversial take. And this is, Naomi, I would actually challenge you on your phrasing here. I don't believe, I think that calling it grunt work is actually negative and dismissive of what, a lot of these people are actually doing. A lot of it is really actually supplying that connective tissue inside of a security organization and for that broader organization. And in particular, some of those areas that we often neglect to polish fully, like policy writing is one of those areas we often neglect to really do a good job of. Things like vuln management is one of those areas where I've seen a lot of entry-level people be extremely successful. And it's one of those areas where oftentimes we just actually kind of, get it started, but don't actually really finish it and polish it. And so actually I view a lot of this work as being additional work for actually people that can come in and help polish things and really help complete things. And I hope that there aren't people out there who view these kind of roles as being diminutive or maybe small, which is actually really, really valuable roles, and it's how a security program really scales inside of a company.
Yeah, you're right. And I shouldn't say the word grunt work. I just do that for shock value, I guess. I agree with you there. I'm going to change my phrasing. Thank you. And I agree. So especially for a small and mid-sized company like mine, we don't have security automation. We don't have that SOAR, right? Like the amazing acronym. We have a lot of manual processes. Like, for example, my cybersecurity analyst, Jessica, now she looks at our DMARC reports and we have everything filling into report URI. And, I have her take a look at it every day. Those are the kind of things that I don't want to spend my time doing. I would rather have someone like Jessica learn and grow in a safe space, like reading our DMARC report.
Well, is there an implication? I'm cutting you off again.
No, it's my turn.
No, it's my turn because it's my show, and then I will let you. I just want to make an alternative observation, and anybody can weigh in, including Naomi. What you said and what Flea called you on in terms of the grunt work, to me, I heard that there's, and I think this is pervasive in our industry, there's an implication, whether you meant it or not, that there's more value in a quote unquote technical role or a technical task versus a non-technical task.
It hurts me so much anytime I hear somebody say technical versus non-technical in security. And please, I definitely want to hear your perspective on this, Naomi. I think that's a misnomer and actually just an outright lie. If you're in security, by definition, it's a technical role. You're always are doing technical work inside of security. In order to be effective, you have to understand the technology behind some of the things that you do inside of corporations. Are there things that require different disciplines from a technology standpoint? Yes. Can you take an opera singer and overnight make them a reverse engineer? Well, maybe not. I don't think it's actually outside of the grasp of somebody from that background. But I do think it's harmful for us in an industry to have this idea that there are technical and non-technical roles. And maybe that's also partially because we have this, we actually kind of see being technical as a badge of honor, and being non-technical is almost dismissive and derogatory. And actually, I see them even because we actually think about the overall impact, because our goal in security is delivering secure outcomes. Both of these people, people from all, all walks of life, whether they're technical or quote unquote non-technical, they all are there to help deliver secure outcomes. And I think that's actually the thing that we should index more on, as opposed to, hey, is this person a good C++ developer, et cetera. That's my you're touching a nerve there, Jeff.
I'm going to smack you just a little bit. And I'm not going to smack you, Flea. I'm just going to point out that your definition of security may be very different than other people's. I've talked to a lot of people that their definition of security is you're a pen tester, right? No. Well, then you're not in security. And that's because that's been a cultural thing for the InfoSec world. Are you security if you do forensics? Are you security if you do technical writing for a security team? Let's say you're the technical writer for a red team. I would argue, of course, you're doing security. And I think you would too, Flea. But I think the base problem there is the definition of security is very different for very people. And the unconscious biases, I don't think it's bias is the right word, but the unconscious sort of scripting of what is security is very different for different people. And so
it's bias. You're sort of hitting the nail on the head, but you're a little bit off center. Realistically, in our community, it's always been the technical people that have done the work and the non-technical people that have been relegated or related to management. So
you're wrong.
Everything
is security.
Whenever we have somebody that's coming up into management, we say, oh, well, then your technical skills are going out the window because you don't use them. So,
but that's wrong.
Trying to make that correlation
in different ways. You're absolutely wrong, Scott. I'm terribly sorry.
No, well, it depends how you define technical. I mean, I have not been hands on a keyboard other than writing Word documents and spreadsheets in probably 17 years, and I say I'm not technical, and people argue with me and say, well, yes, you are. Sure you do, because you understand ones and zeros. But so I think it all has to do with how you define technical. But I think we're touching on part of the issues and problems that are just sort of, part of the fabric and the undercurrent of our industry, which is what creates these problems where there are no entry-level jobs. There's only the mid-level. I mean, this industry began with no entry level. Everybody was coming to it from somewhere else, already having a background in something. And that's, I think that's possibly one reason why the job postings are mid-level, because you need to have, or at least there's a perception, and I'm willing to be corrected on this, Naomi. There's a perception that you need to have some sort of prerequisites in order to get into this field of cybersecurity.
No, the prerequisites came in when recruiters started recruiting.
Yeah.
They said, how are we doing this in other industries? We're going to mimic this over here, and we're going to hope that it's effective.
Naomi, what do you think? Correct all of us.
So much to say. Yeah. I'm just waiting for you guys to talk. So yeah, all right. So I want to address. I just want to address one thing. Somebody mentioned that technical people have more value than a non-technical person. And I will explain this to you. Think about how we treat each other in society. Who is the higher paying people? Is it the teacher or is it the software engineer? Is it a person who cleans bathrooms or is it a person who cleans logs, right? That's the only analogy I can. The reason why is because we end up venerating and paying people more, the more they act like computers. So the more they act non-human, we give them more money. The more they act for humans or as a human, teaching, mentoring, coaching, taking care of people, stay-at-home parents, we give them less money. And why is that? Because our entire value in society is fucked up. Like, we literally have no idea what we're doing. We're like, here's $300,000 and you can be a security engineer. And here's $30,000 to teach and mold the brains of our children. Like, that is fucked up. How is that not fucked up? And so that is my one core argument. Yeah. The reason why we do see, and I agree, we do value technical people over non-technical people because of that reason, because society says it's okay to venerate the people who act more like computers than the people who care for the human side of ourselves.
No, I just want to know. Unfortunately, C-levels are putting a lot of money towards tools versus people and process, and that's why we're saying that we put the technical people above because they know how to run the tools. Fight me.
I just want to ask, and it's somewhat of a rhetorical question. When Naomi drops her microphone and it bounces, does that lose its effect and impact?
No, it'll go because it's a snowball.
because it's a snowball. Hey, we're just getting into it, but we need to take a break. So we'll come right back and jump back into this very heated and interesting conversation that we're having. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.